Hello, everyone. My name is Ann Ellis, and I am the Children, Youth, and Family Minister at Mount Seymour United Church in North Vancouver. And I would like to welcome you to our gathering video for October 3rd, 2021. This weekend is World Communion, and that means pretty much every Christian church across the entire planet will be celebrating communion today and taking time to think about and honor every other Christian church that is celebrating communion today. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what communion is and what it means. So let's get ready to begin with a few deep breaths. And know that once there was someone who did such amazing things and shared such wonderful wisdom that people followed him. And when they asked him who he was, he said, "I am a light." And he also said, "You, my beloveds, are lights in this world. Let your light shine everywhere you go and illumine all of creation. You are an illuminating light." Mount Seymour United Church is located on the unceded and ancestral territory of the Tsleil-Waututh people. And we take time when we gather to recognize and honor them as stewardships of this land from time immemorial. We say thank you, and we take time to remember that we are settlers on this land, and we owe them a great debt. Thank you. At Mount Seymour United Church, the welcome that we extend in this place is as broad and as deep as we can make it. You are welcome here if you are coming to Sunday services in person or if you are still staying at home. You are welcome here whatever your vaccination status, whatever your family situation, whatever your financial situation, your marital status. You are welcome here no matter how old or how young you may be. You are welcome here whatever your sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression is. You are welcome here. You are welcome here if you consider yourself to be a Christian, or if you are part of another faith tradition, or if you're not a part of any religion at all and are simply curious. You are welcome here. We welcome all who seek the ideals of justice, peace, and compassion. Communion, as we usually call it here at Mount Seymour, has a few different names. Sometimes it is referred to as the Eucharist, or the Lord's Supper, or the Last Supper. And these are all words for the same thing, a simple shared meal that we do to remember Jesus and his disciples sharing a final meal on the night before he died. I like the word communion because it means deep connection, deep communication, and it sounds like community. When we share communion, we connect with all of those around us, and we connect to everyone who has ever had communion across the entire planet, and everybody who has shared communion all the way back to the very first time it happened with Jesus and his disciples. I like to imagine a long line of ancestors sharing the cup and it moving all the way back through time, 2,000 years, to the first time the meal was shared. I feel connected, and that's a comfort. I'm going to share with you now a story about the Good Shepherd and World Communion. Are you ready to hear the story? Once, there was someone who did such wonderful things and said such amazing things that people wondered who he was. Finally, they just couldn't help it. They had to ask him. And when they asked him who he was, he said, "I am the Good Shepherd. I know each of my sheep by name, and they know the sound of my voice. When I take the sheep from the sheepfold, they follow me. I walk in front of the sheep and show them the way." I show them the way to the good grass. I show them the way to the table. This is the table of the Good Shepherd. Here is the bread and the cup of the Good Shepherd. Sometimes it seems like we need to have a little statue or something on the table to remind us that this is the table of the Good Shepherd. But the Good Shepherd is in the bread and in the cup. So we don't really need anything to remind us. Sometimes someone comes to read the very words of the Good Shepherd and give us the bread and the cup. Sometimes the people from all over the world come to this table. And even the children come to the table. Now I wonder if you have ever come close to this table. And I wonder if the people are happy around this table. And I wonder if you have ever heard the words of the Good Shepherd. When we talk about the meal that Jesus shared with his disciples, we often call it the Last Supper because it was the last meal he shared with his disciples before he died. But it was also the first communion. And so in the way of things at the church, endings are beginnings. This last meal became the first meal that would be shared for the next 2,000 years. And that's kind of cool, don't you think? When we gather for communion, we remember the story that takes place in the Gospels where the night before Jesus died, he held up a cup and he said, "This is a cup of new life. When you drink from this cup, remember me." And then he picked up a loaf of bread and he held it in his hands. And then he broke it and shared it with the disciples and said, "This is bread for the journey. When you eat this bread, remember me." We remember the wonderful stories that he told and all the amazing things that he did. And we remember the prayer that he taught us that we usually call the Lord's Prayer. You can say it with me now.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Last week was Orange Shirt Day and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And we used orange ribbons on our prayer wall as symbols of loss, symbols of lament. And we invited people to write on their ribbons losses they wanted to honor. This week, our ribbons are purple. And this week, we want to invite you to think about concerns in the world that you're connected with or want to be connected with. And write those on your ribbons. Perhaps you've been thinking about how you might support world hunger and getting people fed. This would be a great week to start that. Maybe you want to take some time to think about how you could help get COVID vaccines to developing countries. It's a good week to think about that too. So take some time to think about a connection to something in the world that you have concern for, something that you would like to do something about. And then come down to the church and write it on a purple ribbon and hang it on our prayer wall. Thank you so much for being with me today. I look forward to seeing you next week at our next video. Bye.